Every 4 years, like clockwork, Bitcoin crashes in September. In 2013, it dropped 15% in just 9 days. In 2017, it collapsed 40% in 2 weeks. And in 2021, another 25% wipeout. Now it's 2025. The halving is behind us. Bitcoin's had 5 straight green months, and September, it's just 1 week away. So the question is simple. Will history repeat, or will this time be different? Before we dive in, most people watching right now aren't subscribed. If you're enjoying the content, hit that subscribe button. It's free, it helps the channel grow, and you can always change your mind later. All right, let's get into it. Seasonality isn't sexy. Most investors ignore it. But in markets, seasonality is real. Because money isn't random, it moves in cycles. And Bitcoin, despite being the most revolutionary asset on the planet, still dances to the same seasonal rhythm. The data doesn't lie. Over its 15-year history, September has been Bitcoin's single worst performing month, both on average and on the median. Every month has mixed results. January, sometimes green, sometimes red. April, often strong. October, historically bullish, but September, it stands alone. Negative average, negative median, consistently red. And this pattern gets supercharged in one very specific year, the post-halving year. That's 2013, 2017, 2021, and now 2025. In each of those years, September wasn't just weak, it was brutal. And here's the kicker, it's not just Bitcoin. Zoom out to stocks. The S&P 500 over the last 15 years also shows September as its weakest month. Stocks bleed. Bitcoin bleeds harder. And altcoins, they get absolutely obliterated. So when people talk about Redtember, it's not just a meme, it's a data-backed reality. Let's rewind all the way back to 2013. Bitcoin was still tiny, just crossing a $1 billion market cap. Barely anyone outside of hardcore cypherpunks even knew it existed. But the pattern had already begun. August 2013, a rocket. Prices surged into the end of the month. Optimism everywhere. And then September 1st hit. Within 9 days, Bitcoin collapsed 15%. Just like that, nearly a sixth of its value was gone. If you panic bought September 1st, you were crushed. If you had the patience to wait until September 9th, the rest of the month actually flipped green. And here's the lesson. It's not the whole month that kills you. It's those 2 bloody weeks at the start. But this was just the beginning. The crashes ahead would be far worse. Fast forward 4 years to 2017. The year Bitcoin went mainstream, the ICO boom. The year everyone from your barber to your grandmother was talking about crypto. August, another monster rally. Then, September 2nd, a Saturday, Bitcoin top. Over the next 13 days, it fell 40%, the nastiest September in Bitcoin's history. Think about that. If you held $10,000 worth of Bitcoin, you watched $4,000 evaporate in under 2 weeks. And if you were heavy in altcoins, many crashed 50%, 60%, even more. But here's the twist. If you survived those first 2 weeks, the back half of September flipped bullish. By mid-October, Bitcoin was not only back to full strength, it was breaking new all-time highs. That's the psychological trap of September. It feels like the end. It feels like the cycle is over. But historically, it's just a flush before the final rally. Now let's jump to 2021. This time, crypto wasn't just about Bitcoin. Ethereum had exploded. NFTs were everywhere. DeFi was changing finance, and yet the same pattern repeated. August 2021, strong. September, the knife. This time the top came on September 7th. And from there, Bitcoin corrected 25%. Again, the bloodbath lasted exactly 2 weeks. And again, altcoins were slaughtered. Many down 40 to 50%. But just like 2013 and 2017, the second half of September was a recovery. And by October, Bitcoin was surging to new highs again. 3 cycles, 3 crashes, all lasting about 2 weeks, all averaging around a 30% drawdown. When you see the same movie 3 times in a row, you start to believe it's not coincidence. Now here we are, 2025. The halving is behind us. Bitcoin's had 5 consecutive green months. ETF inflows are strong, institutions are piling in. And that's exactly the setup we've seen before every Redtember. A massive run-up into the end of August, followed by a brutal 2-week flush in September. So here's what history tells us to watch. Number 1. In past cycles, Bitcoin topped either late August or early September. In 2013, it was August 31st. In 2017, it was September 2nd. And in 2021, it was September 7th. Number 2. Each crash lasted roughly 2 weeks. Each saw drawdowns between 15% and 40%, with an average drawdown of around 30%. Number 3. By the back half of the month, Bitcoin stabilized. By October, it was making new highs. And it's not just us pointing this out. One of the most respected cycle analysts in the space, Benjamin Cowen, has been sounding the alarm on this exact pattern. Here's how he explained it.
This is the pattern. All right, the pattern that we just talked about. That is the pattern of how all Bitcoin bull markets have ended. Up in July and August, a September pullback, a rally in October, and then you get some type of market cycle top sometime in Q4. That's how it's always happened. Could this time be different? It could be, but sometimes, if it's not broke, why try and fix it? And, the question that I know that I'll see down in the comment section below is, what would make Bitcoin go down in the midterm year? It could be on any number of things, but I really do subscribe to the idea that narrative follows price, not the other way around. So if you just look at the chart, you can see that Bitcoin always does poorly in midterm years, even though it does really well in July and August, and then Q4 of post-halving years. So whatever the reason is that if Bitcoin goes up from here, there's going to be a narrative to follow it, whether it be treasury companies, whether it be ETF flows, whether it be the administration talking about it, right? There's always going to be a narrative to support it. What could be the narrative for next year? I know a lot of people think, it could be a lot of different things, but what I think it might actually be next year could just be, we might find ourselves in a situation where the Fed is just not willing to lower rates as much as the markets really want them to. They'll probably lower rates this year some, just like they did last year. But, you might get into a situation where they just can't lower them as much as maybe the market would want. And the reason could be that the long end of the yield curve might revolt when that happens.
July and August pump, September flushes, and then the real fireworks begin in Q4. That's been the script in 2013, in 2017, and again in 2021. The question now is, will 2025 follow the same path? Now here's where 2025 gets even more interesting, because in past cycles, September's crashes were purely market-driven. This time, there's a macro wildcard. On September 17th, the Federal Reserve meets. And right now, the market is betting this could be the moment the Fed pivots to rate cuts. Think about how that lines up. A massive run-up into late August, a 2-week flush in early September, and then, right in the middle of the crash window, the Fed delivers a liquidity pivot. That's not just a coincidence. That's potentially the perfect storm. Because what drives Bitcoin above all else? Liquidity. In 2013, QE money printing fueled the rally. In 2017, global liquidity was at record highs. In 2020 to 2021, trillions in stimulus sent Bitcoin to $69,000. If the Fed cuts this September, it could ignite the blow-off top of 2025. So how do you position yourself? The data gives us a blueprint. Step 1. Watch the run-up. If Bitcoin rips into the end of August, history suggests a top is near. Step 2. Expect 2 weeks of pain. Every post-halving September has delivered a 15 to 40% correction. That's the danger zone. Step 3. Don't panic in week 3. The back half of September has historically been greened. October has historically been very bullish. For me, if we get that late August rally, I'll strongly consider stepping out of some positions, playing defensive, and waiting until around September 17th. Because if history holds, that's when the crash ends. And if the Fed pivots then, that could be the launchpad for Bitcoin's blow-off top. Let's recap. 2013, down 15% in 2 weeks. 2017, down 40% in 2 weeks. 2021, down 25% in 2 weeks. Every post-halving September, the same script. A late August top, a brutal 2-week flush, and then recovery into October. This isn't random. This is the cycle. So as we head into September 2025, ask yourself, do you ignore the data and risk a 50% wipeout in your altcoins? Or do you prepare, play defense, and get ready to re-enter when the rebound begins? Because make no mistake, the blow-off top is still ahead, and when it comes, it will happen fast. The only question is, where will you be positioned when it does? If you've watched this far, you're not a casual investor. You're clearly serious about crypto. So here's the next step. Join my free daily email, Crypto Nutshell. It's everything you need to stay ahead. Expert predictions, on-chain data, and market analysis, all in under 5 minutes a day. Over 90,000 investors already read it. First link in the description. Simply enter your email and you'll get tomorrow's issue straight to your inbox. See you on the inside.